Oh no, they did it again? Well, I guess we go into this, my friends. Houthi pirates attack USS Leibun, then this happened. Now, do I know what the hell is a USS Leibun? Not at all. But I hope it's not a boat, because you don't mess with American boats. Even I know this. That said, I guess we shall see. Before I go into that, let me ask you for one thing. If you can leave a like, thank you so much. Is the best way to show support. Now, if you can subscribe, well, in that case, forget about it. You make my day. Have that in consideration. Link for the original video in my description, and let's go into this.
The Houthis just made the biggest mistake of their campaign. They attacked a ship they thought was an easy target, but it was the USS Laboon, a US Navy destroyer, armed, ready. And what happened next was a disaster for the Houthis. The attack backfired fast. The
Destroyer, my friends. Oh, and I thought, oh man.
US struck back even harder, and now the fallout is bigger than anyone expected. This is what really happened when the Houthis took a shot at an American warship, and why it could change everything in the Red Sea. At the time of the attack,
so my friends, I said this in my last video, but if any Houthi pirates watch this reaction, I think it's very unlikely because I have 0 viewers from Yemen. That said, if you watch this, stop it, my friend. This is not going anywhere. You cannot win against America. I'm just gonna be honest.
The Houthis previously tried to launch a few drones at the US Navy. Though they were unsuccessful, the militia group did publicly acknowledge the attack and added that they were going to continue such tactics against the US Navy and Israel relentlessly. Their partial blockade of the Red Sea through piracy also led to many merchant companies refusing to travel through the Suez, which considerably affected the global economy. In response,
you know that 15% of global trade goes through it. It's crazy.
The US and Israel began conducting small-scale missions to nullify the Houthis through aerial attacks or precision strikes. This didn't represent much of a deterrent. The attacks continued, but the response had taken a tougher stance since President Donald Trump returned to power in January 2025. With him, the U.S. administration took a hardline approach while trying to deal with the Houthis, including conducting a more thorough and devastating campaign starting in mid-March. Additionally, Trump had vowed to respond to any Houthi aggression with extreme prejudice, especially if they decide to target U.S. ships. With that in mind, the ongoing U.S. campaign against the Yemen-based militia has somehow emboldened them to make more aggressive moves, trying to attack military ships despite the U.S.'s threats.
So I saw in the news they actually attacked the airport in Israel.
These attacks rarely hit the target, largely due to the militia's lack of actually useful weapons at long range. But that doesn't mean that some attacks didn't come particularly close to the mark. Just a few weeks ago, for instance, the Houthis launched a few drones at the USS Harry S. Truman, the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier that serves as the head of the unit that is stationed in the area and supported by destroyers and its own fleet of aircraft. With the carrier having significantly more defensive potential than they probably first realized, the Houthis are likely to change targets to smaller vessels. Of course, there's always a chance they accidentally target a U.S. Navy military ship instead of the traditional merchant one. Whether looking from afar or viewing on radar, the ships have a similar outline. So, what would happen if we had a repeat of the 2024 attack on a destroyer like the USS Laboon? Let's create a hypothetical scenario where the Houthis actually managed to launch something at a US Navy ship and it doesn't simply miss. First, let's see just what kind of equipment the Houthis have on hand. Surprisingly, Houthis possess an impressive array of offensive capabilities for a non-state actor.
So I also saw a video about this recently, that even if they are small, they are fighting a lot, and they have some crazy weapons, probably because Iran keeps sending them those, but it's still impressive for how small they are.
Primary weapons include Iranian-supplied Shahed-136 drones, the same kamikaze drones used by Russia in Ukraine. These unmanned aerial vehicles can travel up to 1,000 miles, carry explosive payloads of approximately 90 pounds, and fly at altitudes low enough to make them difficult to detect on radar.
So one of the biggest problems nowadays, from what I understand, is this drone is like 20k. But America, to stop the drone, uses missiles that are like 1 million. I mean, I saw this in other video and I was like, what? So you guys can see how problematic this is, right? Because this is so cheap, but we need really good tools that are expensive to stop them.
Slow, cruising at just over 100 miles per hour, but they're also extremely cost-effective. Each drone costs approximately $20,000 to produce, making them expendable weapons that can be launched in swarms to overwhelm defensive systems. The rebels also employ an assortment of anti-ship ballistic missiles, including the Iranian-designed Khalij Fars, which can reach speeds of Mach 3 and deliver a 1,400-pound warhead. These missiles use radar and electro-optical or infrared guidance systems in their terminal phase, making them particularly dangerous against large, slow-moving vessels. Their range extends to roughly 200 miles, allowing Houthi operators to launch from deep within Yemen's territory. For most commercial ships, this is more than enough to completely obliterate the hull and sink the vessel. But in our hypothetical attack, the Houthis didn't end up targeting a vulnerable container.
Am I crazy or this one is beautiful? Look at the design.
Ship. They took aim at the USS Laboon. The Laboon is an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, one of the most capable warships ever built, and just one of the 74 that the U.S. Navy has at its disposal. At 505 feet long and displacing over 9,000 tons, it's a formidable presence. But what makes it truly exceptional isn't its size, it's what's inside. The heart of the Laboon's defensive capabilities is its Aegis combat system. This integrated naval weapons system uses powerful computers and radar to track and guide weapons to destroy enemy targets. The AN Spy-1 radar at the core of this system can track over 100 targets simultaneously across more than 100 nautical miles.
So it's fair to say that when we are talking about the Navy, those are the tanks. You know what I mean? Those are the ones that do the damage.
Houthis launched their attack, the Laboon's radar can immediately detect the incoming threats. Within seconds, the ship's combat information center would be buzzing with activity. In a matter of seconds, officers need to assess the situation and classify the incoming objects as hostile. After that, the ship's automated defense systems should kick into high gear. Usually, these will be enough to take down most targeted ordnance. The first line of defense is the Laboon's Vertical Launch System, VLS. These cells contain a variety of missiles, including the Standard Missile-2, SM-2, and the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile, ESSM. The SM-2 has a range of over 100 miles and can intercept targets at altitudes up to 65,000 feet. If the captain gives the order, an entire barrage of these defensive missiles can streak toward the incoming drones, destroying several at long range. But the Houthi
I would love to know how expensive they are, because, I mean, I said 1 million, maybe I said something stupid, but I swear that I saw a video about that some drones are getting, putting down with those type of missiles that are really expensive. Maybe that's not the case here, but...
These are most likely to launch a coordinated attack, multiple drones approaching from different vectors, hoping to overwhelm the ship's defenses. As some drones close in, the Laboon's close-in weapon system, CWIS, engages. This remarkable piece of engineering, nicknamed R2-D2 by sailors for its distinctive shape, is essentially
Wait a second. We can continue.
A radar-guided Gatling gun that fires 20mm rounds at a rate of 4,500 rounds per minute. Nothing that gets within its range survives. The CWIS's targeting range is roughly 3.5 miles, meaning that the radar and computer control can detect and assess targets from that distance. As targets close in to about 1 to 1.5 miles, the system's autocannon automatically opens fire, aiming to neutralize threats within seconds. A drone...
What a beast, my friend! Oh, I always like it, Star Wars.
traveling at around 100 miles per hour would cover the distance from detection to engagement in just over 2 minutes. It's not nearly enough time to fool the system or inflict meaningful damage. Bear in mind that the Aegis detection system and the SM-2 and ESSM interceptor missiles weren't designed to counter slow-moving targets like drones. Instead, they were made and tested against high-velocity ordnance, such as cruise and ballistic missiles. The upgraded version of the SM-2, the SM-6, is especially adept at maneuvering between low and high altitudes and rapidly changing its speed and vectors to hit a target from a blind spot. In fact, the SM-6 was tested against hypersonic targets multiple times, and the manufacturer is confident in its capabilities so much that it has started selling the missiles to other countries like Japan. As such, not a single Houthi weapon would actually manage to reach the destroyer. The entire engagement would be over in a matter of minutes. The slow drones would prove to be no match for the rapid interceptor missiles or the ship's CWIS. And even if, by some chance, the destroyer's radar and defense systems don't work, there are always a few backup plans. The U.S. Navy isn't stationing just one...
Oh, wait, stop it. So, we have backups for Okay, I love that. See, my friends, this is one of the... people try to scare you. This is what scares me. You know, this picture. Look at this. Look at this. Oh man. And the first music that comes to my mind is what you gonna do when they come for you know, bad boys, bad. You guys don't know that song?
One ship in the Red Sea, and hoping for the best, it has deployed 2 aircraft carriers, 7 destroyers, and 2 cruisers along 2 carrier strike groups in the Red Sea, providing sustained pressure and operational dominance. The USS Laboon, which has previously operated as part of a 5-vessel formation during an earlier deployment, would not be acting alone. Any future engagement would see it working closely with multiple Allied warships in the region. The long-range radar of the Nimitz-class aircraft carriers, the ones leading both strike groups, has received a major upgrade in 2021 and has reportedly already been installed in several carriers. The radar, called Mark 24 Mod 0, is estimated to be at least partially based on the APG-79 ASA radar. The Naval News website posited that its effective range would be at least 100 miles, with the added capability of detecting small cross-section targets like drones. Typically, drones are somewhat difficult to capture on conventional radar, as they are slow, small, and might travel at odd angles due to their rotors moving them through the air, rather than the smooth jet-like propulsion system in a missile. In all likelihood, the Mark 24 is purported to...
You know what? Drones are a real problem in this new era. I mean, makes sense, of course, but because all the terrorist groups, they have those. It's kind of crazy.
Be the U.S. Navy's response to the prevalence of smaller, difficult-to-pinpoint ordnance coming their way. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that these upgraded radars are on the lead ships of the Red Sea strike groups. This means that the aircraft carriers could potentially detect the missiles and drones coming within their range, giving the targeted destroyer ample time to attempt evasive maneuvers before resorting to activating its defense systems. Considering the distance at which the U.S. Navy is located from Yemen, the drone operators among the Houthis typically don't manage to come anywhere close to the ships before the navigational systems get scrambled by the electronic warfare systems aboard the ships. In essence, for a majority of the time, there is practically no risk for the U.S. crews, at least from the Houthis. But remember, Trump promised that each aggressive action would be met with a swift retaliation. The attack on a U.S. warship would represent a significant escalation, and the response would be swift and decisive, within hours.
But to be fair, America always did this right, even back in the day. I remember watching a Fatal Attrition video, and the proportional way of dealing with attacks in America is not proportional at all. It's basically if you kill, not kill. If you destroy one boat, they destroy their entire navy. This is how Americans operate.
The full might of America's expeditionary air power would be brought to bear. Stationed in the Red Sea alongside the USS Laboon, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier would take the lead in launching the counterattack. Aboard the carrier, squadrons of FA-18 Super Hornets stood ready, twin-engine multi-role fighters capable of scrambling within minutes. This
is a good one. The FA, I have to watch a video about this one, because not the actually this is for the ones that watch until the middle. Number 18. If I should go deep into this jet, because I believe this is an amazing one.
Workhorses of naval aviation could dominate the skies in air-to-air combat or deliver precision ground strikes, depending on what the situation demanded. The Super Hornet can reach speeds of Mach 1.8 and carry up to 17,750 pounds of external ordnance. For this mission, they would likely be loaded with Joint Direct Attack Munitions, or JDAMs, conventional bombs fitted with GPS guidance kits that transform them into all-weather smart bombs. Thanks to satellite navigation, modern JDAMs can strike with remarkable precision, achieving an accuracy margin of about 16 feet under ideal conditions. Even if GPS signals are jammed, they can still hit within about 100 feet of the target, more than close enough for their powerful explosives to do catastrophic damage.
That was a small bomb.
But the FA-18s won't be going in alone. EA-18G Growlers, specialized electronic warfare variants of the Super Hornet, might even take off first. These planes are equipped with ALQ-99.
Oh, so this is a variation of the other? Interesting.
And next-generation jammer pods that can detect, identify, and jam enemy radar and communication systems. The Growlers would ensure that the Houthis are effectively blind and deaf to the coming attack, scrambling their meager anti-air defense systems to ensure a successful mission. Additionally, MQ-9 Reaper drones would provide real-time intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, with their ability to loiter for over 24 hours. And equipped with multispectral targeting systems, these unmanned aircraft would identify key targets and assess battle damage after strikes. In fact, the MQ-9s are
Those are massive for drones, right? In the air they look English. In the air they look small, but here on the ground they are quite big, you know. Oh.
Are considered to be among the biggest losses for the U.S. military throughout the prolonged campaign in the Middle East from the end.
Just want to explain one thing. I said in the air. Air means air is the word for air in Portuguese. And by the way, I don't even need to speak English, my friends. I should speak American. It's much better.
Of 2023. Over the course of 2 years, analysts have established that up to 20 of these drones could have been shot down by the Houthis, with each drone costing around $30 million. That's a significant expense. However, it's by and large worth it, as the drones are much more replaceable than entire aircraft or ships, and they can save countless lives as well as prevent U.S. soldiers from taking undue risks. This is why the U.S. Navy constantly monitors the area surrounding Yemen with more drones and remains tight-lipped about the extent of drone operations. In fact, the military is reluctant to acknowledge how the drones were downed by the Houthis and regularly omits this information if possible. So, how did the Houthis manage to do even that much? Despite being a non-state actor, the Houthis do possess some air defense capabilities, including Soviet-era SA-2 and SA-3 surface-to-air missile systems. With enough missiles thrown at the drones and some MQ-9s needing to go deep into Houthi territory to gather vital intelligence, it's practically a matter of time before the rebels would score a successful hit. However, these aging systems are no match for modern electronic warfare capabilities. The Growlers effectively suppress these defenses, creating a safe corridor for the strike package. The targets for the attack would likely be carefully selected. In most cases, these are launch sites for the drones or missiles, command and control centers, weapon storage facilities, and radar installations. Of course, the ongoing campaign on the Houthis is even less discriminating, targeting known gathering locations for the leadership or electrical and water supplies for Houthi-controlled towns. With the road clear from electronic interference and radars most likely disabled, the Super Hornets would have their pick of these targets, releasing their JDAM-equipped bombs with precision. The results would be devastating. The combination of surprise, electronic warfare superiority, and overwhelming firepower meant that they could operate with near impunity in Yemeni airspace. Even older aircraft in America's arsenal, like the F-15E Strike Eagle or the venerable B-1B Lancer bomber, could have conducted these operations with minimal risk due to the profound asymmetry in capabilities. For reference, the first day of the U.S.
So even the things you guys don't use anymore that much will be able to do the job. But this let's say, is not a real war, but this is taking a while, you know. I think like this is more, I could be wrong, and this could be a conspiracy theory to be fair, but I feel like this is more about putting some pressure on Iran, because I know that there is a lot of tension between the US and Iran, and that's the big boy that America probably will have to go more all-in, not all-in, but it will be a completely different war. I think America is more sending a message here, but I guess you can say the same for Iran, since they are not quitting, right? Look, I said this in another video, but I think it will happen. Iran versus the US eventually.
U.S. campaign against the Houthis in March was estimated to have killed 50 people and injured another 100, while also damaging vital compounds across major areas controlled by the rebels. It's possible that the destruction will reach these levels if Trump thinks the U.S. Navy has been pushed around enough by the constant attacks, even if most of them are just perfunctory in nature. However, the Houthis are just a bigger part of the picture. In essence, they are just a stepping stone that the U.S. needs to overcome to target the real threat in the Middle East, a longtime backer of all militias scattered throughout the Middle East, arming them with weapons and uniting them to work against Israel and the West. Iran.
I was about to say, if you guess the country.
Since the outbreak of civil war in Yemen in 2014, Iran has been supplying the Houthi rebels with increasingly sophisticated weapons. Iranian advisors have trained Houthi operators in the use of these systems, and Iranian technical expertise has helped the group develop their own manufacturing capabilities. The drones and missiles used in all of their attacks bear striking similarities to Iranian designs. The components, the guidance systems, and even the tactical employment all point to Iranian influence. This is part of Iran's broader strategy of asymmetric warfare, using proxy forces throughout the Middle East to extend its influence while maintaining plausible deniability. And when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, 2023, Iran saw an opportunity by directing the Houthis to target shipping in the Red Sea under the guise of solidarity with Palestine. Iran created a second front in the conflict. This wasn't about helping Palestinians, it was about exploiting the situation to advance Iran's regional ambitions and test Western resolve. The strategy forced the US and its allies to divert naval assets to the Red Sea, potentially weakening their presence elsewhere in the region. It disrupted global shipping, driving up insurance rates and forcing vessels to take longer, more expensive routes around Africa, and it demonstrated Iran's ability to project power far beyond its borders through its network of proxy forces. The attacks on warships represent a dangerous escalation in the shadow war. The Houthis, emboldened by their Iranian backers, have crossed a line, and the US response makes it clear: attacking American warships carries serious consequences. So far, the campaign that started on March 15th doesn't seem to have an end in sight, and each day continues to create new headlines. Each commemorating.
No, this is true. The amount of headlines you see, even here on Portuguese news about this situation, is crazy. So, again, what will this lead into us? What this will lead us into? See, is the scary part.
A new raid done by the US forces or an unsuccessful Houthi attack. While the Houthis may continue their campaign against commercial shipping, they've been served notice that the US Navy vessels are not to be trifled with. The technological gap between Houthi offensive capability and American defensive systems is simply too vast, and the retaliatory capability of US expeditionary forces is overwhelming. However, the real threat here is Iran. They have used this chaos to further their own agenda and have carefully navigated the US administration's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear agreement, or the JCPOA, to summarily prevent the West from getting vital information about the country's nuclear enrichment capabilities. This has led to staggering reports that suggest that Iran might be well on its way to building a nuclear weapon, and if pressured, some analysts suggest that this could be done in a matter of weeks. Of course, an untested nuclear weapon wouldn't be of much use in real-world scenarios, and it's unclear just how Iran plans to test its weapons potential, given that Israel and the US are doing their best to demolish its anti-air systems and curb any progress. But if Iran does announce that it's produced a nuclear bomb, the gloves might be off for the US Navy. The responses for trying to attack a single warship would be nothing compared to a potentially outright declaration of war on Iran or a prolonged military operation such as the one during the War on Terror. Yet, even if we discount Iran.
But here is where I'm a bit misinformed, because I remember 1 month ago, maybe 1 month ago, yes, seeing news that America will try to reach a deal with Iran about this situation. But I don't see any reports of that deal. So are they still working on this? Is negotiations off? What is going on?
Iran's nuclear ambitions for the moment, the Middle East remains a powder keg, with the Israel-Hamas conflict threatening to ignite wider regional hostilities. Iran continues to pull strings from the shadows, using groups like the Houthis to advance its interests without confrontation. And caught in the middle are the civilian maritime traffic and global commerce that depend on safe passage through these strategic waterways.
And also, let's be real, all the innocent people in Yemen and Iran. Come on, because those terrorists, politicians, groups, they don't represent the people most of the time.
Question remains, will the decisive US response deter future attacks, or will it simply drive the conflict to new levels of intensity? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. The next time Houthi radar operators detect a ship passing through the Red Sea, they'll need to think twice before launching their weapons, because that blip on their screen might just be another American destroyer waiting to respond with overwhelming force, and the US has far more capabilities to wage a prolonged war than a mere militia funded by a country that has been sanctioned to oblivion. What do you think? How will the Houthi campaign progress? Thanks for watching, and leave your comments.
Okay, thank you, my friend. Great video again. This channel does really good job, really good work. My friends, scary times, if you really think about, because there is a lot of conflicts. I was reading about India and Pakistan or something. That could be another one that pops up all of a sudden. But Americans are prepared at the end of the day, and that's a good thing in a bad scenario, if that makes sense. So thank you so much for watching, my friends. If you like this type of videos, just leave a like, and see you guys in the next one. Bye.